welcome to Open View, where we exchange our perspectives to expand our view. Today, we have Lem Butler here from Black and White Roaster. He is the co-founder and owner. And I always like to start with, like, what was your first sip of coffee? Like, if you can remember it.
My first sip?
What's your first sip?
Oh man, I have to go way back.
Yeah.
To when I was a kid. Like when my older sister and I would run out of Ovaltine, we'd dip into the parents' Maxwell House.
Nice.
Add a lot of sugar and cream.
I was gonna say.
So I guess that's my first sip.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you like it, or was it just like a sneaky treat?
It was just a sneaky treat,
Sneaky treat. Gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, my first sip, I think I was waiting for a record store to open up in DC, and I just popped into a cafe. And I was like, I'm just try espresso.
Oh, no. So you hadn't had espresso at that point?
Yeah, I had
Nice.
Yeah, so I just got a shot of espresso.
Straight up, not a latte.
Not a latte.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's bold.
And it wasn't that bad.
That's surprising, because I feel like for me, I cannot identify my first sip of coffee. I can say that coffee has always been around me. My parents drank it. My grandparents drank it. It was like the way they started their day, something they kept them afloat during the day. And I kind of just, as I got older, I tried it along the way, and then I think not until like 2018 did I get into specialty coffee.
Right on.
And like looking for like local coffee shops, because I noticed the culture of it was different. They were a little bit more knowledgeable behind like what they're producing and why they're choosing their flavors. And it didn't seem so rushed. It seemed very personalized. So after that, that's when I was like, all right, I need to figure out like I can make this at home. Like where are more opportunities? Like where are people trying different flavors? So that's kind of like how I got into it. But I like to start there because I feel like the first sip is interesting. Either you tasted it and you didn't like it, and then you eventually found the coffee you liked, and that's what sparked.
Well, it's easy for me to remember because, I was 8 years old, and then there's this big gap.
Yep.
And I was 28 years old.
And then you're like, this is where it
And I didn't get into coffee until I was 33, really.
Wow. So, okay. That makes sense. So Black and White, how did you guys start Black and White?
Oh, Black and White. Well, I mean, with most coffee companies, they jump into it without, the prerequisites, but I was in coffee for quite some time before Kyle and I started Black and White. And Kyle, he was also in coffee for a while too.
Okay, yeah.
We met through, I worked at Counterculture, and I was a rep for Jubala where he worked. He was a barista there. And, over the years, me competing and him getting into competition, it was this kind of friendly competition, between each other.
Yeah.
I'm going to beat you this time, but he never did.
He's like, okay, all right.
But then, he took a break from working in coffee and got a job working for Malkunik USA, which was in Durham at the time.
Right.
And when I finally won, when I finally made it to finals in the U.S. barista competition, I've been like 7 times and only made it as far as semifinals. And that year, 2016, I finally made it to finals. And it's the final 6, and then the winner would be the U.S. champion, represent the U.S. On the world stage.
Okay.
And he was backstage because Malkunik was the grinder sponsor.
Okay.
And I was a little nervous because I'd never been in finals before, a little excited too.
Right.
And the palate just shut down.
Oh.
I just couldn't taste anything.
Oh.
Yeah, it was weird. It was the weirdest thing.
I was gonna say, is that
never had stage fright before.
Oh, yeah,
and it wasn't, I don't even think it was stage fright. It was just like the palate just wasn't working.
Wow. Is that common, or is that like a
I don't know. People have different experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That must have been like nerve-wracking though.
Yeah, it was.
You wanted to, but you can't taste anything.
But again, I made it to the finals, and this was going to be my last time competing.
Okay.
This was my 8th season, and I just wanted that 6th place trophy.
Yep. He's like, I just want to say that. To the furthest I could make it.
And I was like, Kyle was backstage because Malkunik was the grinder sponsor.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you need to taste this coffee because I can't taste anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he tasted it.
Yeah.
My flavor calls were on point. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I went on and I won the competition.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, Kyle, why don't you come with me to Worlds? And Worlds that year was in Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, nice.
And so he was my coach.
Nice.
And went to Dublin. And while we were in Dublin, I had mapped out the city of all these coffee shops I wanted to check out.
Yeah.
And the first one we went to was 3FE. And while we were in there, the experience was amazing. The food was great, the coffee was great, the service was great.
Yeah.
I mean, hospitality, a 10.
Top notch.
Yeah. And we thought it was kind of a fluke. So we went the next day, and then we went the next day,
Oh,
we didn't go see any other
I was
shops.
gonna say the map. They shut it down. First stop, shut it down.
And while we were there, we started talking about, yeah, this is exactly what I would do if I opened a cafe.
Yeah.
And we started talking about it, and then we got into this debate about what color the equipment should be. And I was like, yeah, everything should be like all matte white, nice and clean. He's like, no, it should be all murdered out black, matte black, everything.
Wow.
And then we were like, oh, black and white cafe. And it was kind of a joke,
Yeah, and then it turned into the actual name.
Yeah, then it turned into a name, yeah.
That's pretty dope. Like, I really was thinking, like, how did they come up with, like, just 2 colors and then said, that's it. I mean, honestly, coffee shops come up with crazy names all the time, and that's what I like to explore in my podcast, because I feel like there's a reason why you chose the name. It wasn't like a random name thing you ran of a tool and it popped out a name. Like, there's a reason behind it. So from black and white, the like concept of colors you guys wanted to go to, how did y'all come up with like the panda as the logo?
Yeah, so after I did really well in Worlds, I placed 4th in the world.
Okay.
And that inspired Kyle to compete again. So he asked me to be his coach.
Oh, cool.
And so in 2017, I coached him, and he won the 2017 U.S. Barista Championship.
Nice.
And between him winning and us going to Seoul for Worlds, we had an opportunity to purchase Back Alley Coffee Roasters.
Okay.
And that's when we had to put a little bit of meaning behind the name Black and White, the whole purpose.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a rebrand.
And the mission, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so we wanted, I mean, we've seen a lot of coffee professionals come and go in the industry because they kind of hit this wall of, especially baristas, they'll be in a cafe for a while and it's like, oh, what's next?
Yeah.
And there's not an opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And both Kyle and I, we've had this unique career where opportunities were always there for us.
Yeah.
So our purpose for Black and White was to create opportunities for people in coffee.
Yeah.
And then the whole Black and White meaning is to make coffee as simple as possible to reach as many people as possible.
Right.
And we wanted, well, mainly me. I wanted a mascot.
Yes.
And I wanted it to be black and white.
Yeah.
I didn't like zebras. I didn't like
no penguins.
No penguins.
I love penguins.
You like penguins?
Yeah. I mean, you can't tune me out there, but cool.
And I spent some time in China.
Okay.
And I went to the panda research facility in Chengdu.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that pandas were so endangered, and that research facility they were responsible for populating the world with pandas. And pandas are pretty docile until you F with them.
Right. And I messed you up. I had to show you.
And I kind of like that, So I was like, well, let's do a panda.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. It hurts my heart a little bit. Penguins, but that's okay. So, when you guys started out as roastery, why did you end up branding into, like, I guess for expansion you branded into cafes? What are your key values for your cafes, like, or your staff in general? What is your core values for your Black and White roastery?
Well, we're all about service, community, and excellence, and that all stemmed from both of our careers in coffee, and then that experience at 3FE in Dublin.
Gotcha.
I mean, we're in the service industry, so hospitality is number one. You treat people as guests. They're guests first before they buy something.
That's facts.
When they buy something, then they're a customer.
That's facts. I never thought about that because it is you are a guest, and I could choose to be in your service, not like a hotel where I already have a reservation. So like you're already stuck with me. When you get in a cafe, I could not like any of your flavor choices or anything about your experience. I could leave. So that is true. Service makes sense. That makes sense. And the community, coffee industry is a community. Like, I really don't think local coffee shops, you can go into them and like it's a completely different experience to me than Starbucks. Like Starbucks, we all know we're going for agenda. It's a quick meet and greet. You in, you out.
Yeah.
But when I've come to like local coffee shops, I feel like the baristas and the staff are so knowledgeable and so passionate about what they do. It doesn't matter how busy it is. If you're in front of them, they're giving you your undivided attention. And that's definitely what I experienced when I first went to your Roseville location. I went there for the food. So I was like, I got your Wake Forest one doesn't have food. Your Roseville
not yet.
does.
Not yet.
Oh, my guys. But the Roseville one, I was like, I knew you had 3 locations, and I was like, I want to get some food to go with mine. So I went to the Roseville one, and I just loved how knowledgeable even the people that were like just doing the food, there's probably like 3 different people in the shop, but I had conversations with all of them. It wasn't like whoever took my order was the only person that was willing to talk about it. And then like the atmosphere, there's a lot of open seating, and like I just sat with someone that was at an open table and we talked about coffee. So it was like the community was there.
Yeah.
And then excellence. Every bag of coffee, y'all Thursday coffee drops. Like, I just need to have like a direct deposit at this point, because there's so many great coffees that come out of your Thursday coffee drops. And I know from me, your El Guzman strawberry one has spoken to my heart. I know that it's not gonna stay; it's gonna rotate out again, but you guys do a really good job of like giving a good variety of flavors for everybody to try.
That Elkin coffee, that's a great story. I mean, I visited his farm in 2015, and that was a time when I was gonna just stop competing.
Okay.
But that experience there, along with some other things that happened, kind of inspired me to compete again. And in 2016,
nice.
things happened.
Well, they're inspired me to have multiple bags of coffee at my house at this point, because you just dropped a peach one, which is what I'm trying now.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty good, right?
I know that I need to get the peach one that they just dropped last Thursday. I'm about to buy the strawberry and the peach because I need both of them. But there's also a meaning behind your bagging, like the labels for them.
Yeah.
There's a color theory that you guys go for that. So like, could you walk us through like what the color theory is behind that?
Yeah, so when we got into opening cafes, well, one thing we experienced when we took over Back Alley, that was in Wake Forest, they already had an established community.
Right.
So we felt kind of weird going into this community, to Barista Champions, taking over the local community cafe.
Right.
So we wanted to kind of meet people where they were.
Right.
On their coffee journey. I started out with blends, dark roast,
right.
And a lot of people start there, and a lot of people are still there.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, that's what you like.
So we wanted to create this infrastructure of like, okay, so if you like these chocolatey notes, these blends, well, let's continue to do that.
Right.
If you like these fruity coffees, like that medium roast, let's continue to do that.
Yeah.
So we have that blue label that kind of focuses on Colombians and Central American coffees, those traditional coffees that people are really drawn to, coffee flavored coffees. And then the red label is those natural processed coffees that has a little fruit.
Right.
And then the yellow label is kind of ode to where coffee originated from, which is Ethiopia.
Right.
And these are going to be these sweet floral coffees,
right. Yep.
kind of bright yellow. Color.
Yeah, I definitely.
And that's the beginning of that infrastructure. So,
gotcha.
So that blue will follow these kind of awesome single origin coffees, what farmers are doing that might have some innovation or whatever.
Right.
So your blues and greens. So when you're ready to venture out from that classic coffee flavor, you have that road.
Yeah,
and same thing with the reds.
Yeah.
They go reds, pinks, and then the yellows
different
do their
hues
thing.
Of them. They all have like a variation within those standard hues that you guys have, which is pretty cool, because this year I've been keeping all of my bags of coffee, so I can end the year do like a review of like which ones like my top 5 and like which ones I would like to look for next year. And my hues are the red and yellow. I'm definitely a light roast coffee, very fruity, very floral, very sweet note.
That's why you love this coffee, right?
Yeah, I love the peach. The medium roast is where I actually started. I never actually ventured into dark roast. I like dark roast was just something that I'm not a chocolatey coffee person, but I do like sweet.
I was all about it.
Yeah,
that bold.
This is where you started. And I've seen that you like kind of grew out of it a little bit, but you still, you still appreciate it, which is cool. So with you guys and like your growth, I know that you guys are growing to have food in your Wake Forest location, but you're also growing to expand into the airport of Raleigh, which is pretty cool, because that's a whole new world and industry and group of people that you're meeting, people from all over.
Yeah.
And you guys already like branch all over as far as like you can ship yours nationwide, like you're worldwide, right?
Yeah,
we
do a few international locations.
Yeah, so you're everywhere. So like your business model, I feel like when I go to your coffee shops, I feel it's very personalized for my visit. Like I don't feel like I'm rushed. I feel like you're very knowledgeable. Any questions that I ask or anything that I probably didn't think of, you're like, well, kind of. Like maybe if you don't like that super sweet, you can get this one. You can try that. If you want to be a little bit adventurous, will you be able to have that same personal feel for the airport, or will it be a little bit different because it is such a fast-paced area?
This is going to be a true test of, the mission and the values.
Right.
Originally, we when we started roasting, we saw that there were a lot of multi-roaster coffee shops, meaning they have like multiple roasters on their bar.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they would reach out to us and they would have us on their menu for, 2 to 3 months.
Right.
And then we'd be off their menu.
Okay.
And we didn't see that as this kind of sustainable thing for our roastery. So we were like, well, this community cafe here in Wake Forest is doing great. Let's just do that. Let's focus on that.
Yeah.
So that's when we did the Roseville shop, then we did the downtown Raleigh shop.
Gotcha.
And then COVID hit and everything shut down.
Yeah.
With everyone home, it was like, okay, we want to order coffee now.
Oh yeah.
And that saved the business.
Yeah.
That saved the business.
That was, I think I bought the most coffee during that time for sure. Like, you're home, and at that point I could really like hone in on my craft of like, I can't just go to a shop like I used to, or as frequent as I'm used to like really get that experience. I had to hone in at home. So I think a lot of people went on that concept.
So we pivoted.
Yeah.
We pivoted away from the community cafes and focused on like online, e-commerce.
Yeah.
Focused on wholesale.
Yep.
And then this opportunity with the airport popped up, where they wanted to do more local businesses in RDU, in the Terminal 2.
Yeah.
And the VP of RDU lives in Wake Forest, and he was a fan.
Nice.
And so he reached out to us, and we started the process before COVID. And then after COVID, a restaurant group out of Miami, they got involved and said, okay, we'll take over this bidding process. We want to use you all as a licensing agreement.
Okay.
And we want to use a local chef in Raleigh.
Nice.
And do another, like a restaurant concept right across from where we'll be.
Nice.
And they were very passionate about being true to our mission and our values and the culture of Black and White, and bringing that to the airport.
Their side. Cool.
So talk is talk, but we'll see what.
Yeah,
we haven't seen it. So spring 2024, that's when that'll happen, and the idea is to bring their management here, train their managers in the Black and White culture.
Nice.
The labeling, the coffee, the education, the values, and the mission, and having that brought to RDU. And that'll be the litmus test for like, if we want to venture outside of, the Raleigh, Durham area.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of people come to us, well, we want Black and White in, Garner or Apex or Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, that's a little too far from home.
From your hub. So with talking about partnership, your wholesale partners, like how do you evaluate them, like saying yes or no if I feel like your core values align with us? What kind of like evaluation do you do with that? Because I feel, is it like I already known you for a certain amount of years and I kind of know you as a person and I've been to your cafe and I know how your cafe is run, or is it a little bit more detailed to that? Do you have to like evaluate like their training that they have for their staff, and like how does that go?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It could be, we have two wholesale reps, Daniel and Anthony. Anthony, he comes to us from New York.
Right.
Daniel, he actually worked with Kyle at Jubala.
Oh, cool.
He's one of the original
Nice.
baristas there. And then he went out to Portland and he came back.
Y'all got really good retention here.
Right.
Really good retention. It's like we were buds and now we are partners, and we also are like doing a lot of coffee things, and it seems like y'all are so passionate about it, and that's why they either stay for a really long time or they like, I gotta go check this out and I'll be back, and they do come back. They resurface again, which is pretty cool.
And so they have this vetting process of just having a conversation. If they don't know the accountant, they reach out to them.
Right.
It's kind of a vetting thing and see if their values align with our values.
Right.
If they get 1 out of 3, then it's a conversation that can move forward.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So you get a little bit of flex.
If there's no mixing of the values, then maybe it's not going to work for.
That makes sense, because I know you're a wholesale with Jubala.
Yeah.
And there I could see the same consistency there.
That's an awesome, unique relationship too.
Really?
Yeah, because I've known Andrew Cash, the owner, for a while, and so has Kyle. Kyle worked for him.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
And they've been hardcore counterculture for a really long time.
Really?
I think they have 3 cafes and they have 2 other projects.
Yeah.
But they wanted to roast on their own.
Gotcha.
And so they reached out to us and they were like, hey, will you teach us how to roast?
Oh, that's dope.
And we were like, sure.
Yeah.
And so we taught them how to roast for like a whole year.
Okay,
Their
cool.
GM would come over and roast with us.
Nice.
And then they switched to us.
Yeah, because I mean, saying that they used to work with counterculture, I think when I started going there, that's all they ever did was black and white.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know there was another option before they had partnered with you guys. So that's pretty cool. And then Union Coffee in Greensboro, they also use your coffee.
They're one of our very first wholesale accounts.
Yeah. When I talked to Daniel about, Union Coffee and the start, he mentioned that, and I was like, that's pretty cool that like that relationship is there. But the culture between, if I evaluated the culture of all three of them over the years that I've gone to them, they all are similar in value. Like I feel like community is always there. They're definitely all excelling at excellence. They all are performing a service and knowing that we're a guest first, but then we become a customer based off of how well you serve them. And then the community, like they all have good events, they all have good hosting capabilities. All of their staff is very knowledgeable, so I do see that consistency. So I was just curious to like how you guys evaluate that. And I love your business model as far as like you're thinking of your employees and their growth. I even went onto your website and looked like what it was like to apply to you guys in your questionnaires of like, what is your interest in coffee? What is your experience? Like, what do you want to learn? Where do you want to grow? I think that's pretty cool than just saying, like, we're hiring for this specific. I'm hiring for barista. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I think Keys to the Shop podcast, you had mentioned one of your longtime customers actually became an employee just because they were that interested in coffee. Yeah. And I think that is amazing.
And she's one of our best baristas.
And like, I think that's like so unique that like you guys really foster your community and you support it. And you guys just like love people, and you as a co-founder and of Black and White, I've also seen like personally how you support other coffee like industries or like coffee shops or even baristas when you go to competitions and stuff. I really love how Black and White really invest themselves in the people. Like it's not just about the coffee.
That's one of the first things I learned in coffee. The owner, Jane Brown, who I worked for, she was like, the secret is you got to take care of the people and the product. And she's not just talking about the customers, she's talking about people on both sides of that counter. You got to take care of your staff.
And y'all do that very well, and you guys are super accessible. When you guys say that you're accessible, they literally are super accessible. Like, if you do not have a coffee machine at home, they do the Comet frozen espresso shots. And that is, it's so simple, especially when I'm like at work and I want to have like a latte. I could just let that defrost within the milk that I have, and there it goes. I have an amazing latte. You guys got some instant coffees that like do the exact same thing as you would for like any other brewing process you have at home. If you're on the road, easy way to do it. Like in your beans, you can do it at home just the same way you want to do it at the coffee shop. So it's like you guys have so many ways to reach people, and even if you're not knowledgeable in the processes of brewing, you make it easy for you still to have the same experience, which is super unique. So I appreciate what you guys are doing at Black and White. I'm happy to hear that you guys are still growing. I'm happy to hear about the airport adventure. Are you guys looking into doing any more classes this year?
Yeah, we're going to kick the classes back up again. We had them going before COVID. Shut them down for a little while, but revamping everything, espresso classes, brewing classes, palate development.
And palate developments, that's a good one.
And then another thing, I want to get people to Origin, because the wine industry, we have Napa Valley right there in California. You can go and see grapes growing on the vine, but how often do you get to go and see coffee growing on a shrub?
That would be awesome. That would be a really good experience, because I've been hearing about Origin, going to Origin based off your barista competitions. And I was like, what is going to Origin like?
It's awesome.
And when I looked into it, that is a really special thing to go through. Now, I don't know for specifically, but what Kyle has been touring recently with different farms, is that the same thing or completely different?
He's on a buying trip.
Gotcha.
So he's actually meeting some of the relationships that we've had, especially one of our oldest relationships, Edgar Arazo in Honduras.
Nice.
So he spent some time there. He went over to Panama for the Best of Panama and to meet up with one of the farmers that both of us competed with, Jose Gallardo, Finca Neguo.
The relationships you guys have and the maintaining.
And that was the thing too. When we started this, we wanted to, sell coffees that came from places that we've been.
Right.
You know, I've been to, I don't know, 25 farms on 3 continents.
Wow.
And, you know, so we want to sell those coffees so we can actually say we've been there, we've talked to these farmers, we have a relationship with these farmers.
Exactly.
And so now that the world is opening back up and we're able to travel again, we can start doing that now.
More often. Yeah, no. I love that you guys are so intentional from like the conceptual part of coffee and reaching the farmers, getting to know them, appreciating the process, to making it, to bringing it back, creating an environment for us to experience them, and also making it super accessible for anybody at home to do the same thing. I really appreciate what you guys are doing here, and I can't wait to see what else you guys come up with. All right, you guys, that's it.
Peace.